Alright, so I wasn't planning on going live, but I was thinking about, well, I was kind of planning on it just like a couple minutes ago, and I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about. And then I realized I was thinking about whether I wanted to go live or do an actual proper edited video. And the idea of doing a video that is under 10 minutes sounds like it would make sense. You know, I pick a topic, I pick it. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about the names of my shows now. I'm like questioning a lot of stuff that I've been doing. I might want to restart. I'm not sure. I'll figure something out. Either way, um, it can't be that hard to just pick a topic and make a 10-minute video or less than 10 minutes, just talking about that topic specifically. The problem that I have is that I don't just pick a topic and talk about it. I talk about all of the other factors that relate to the topic, which takes me off on so many different tangents. I end up talking about something that I could have covered in 10 minutes in an hour, 40 minutes, or 30 minutes, whatever it is, it's way longer than it needs to be. And the video that I did last time is a perfect example of this. It was called My Problem with Capitalism. Very last minute title. I realized as I was about to make the video that I didn't know what I wanted to call it, because it was me sort of reading a post that I did on Instagram explaining it, and I didn't really know, um, I didn't know what to call it. So, I see that nobody's watching this. You probably wouldn't want to click on a video with a title like that, but you're gonna understand why I've called it that in a minute. Um, you know, you you don't have to watch this if you don't want to. It's not going to be an important video. It's not like my other ones, but I mean, I'm sure there will be interesting things that I talk about because I always end up talking about something. That's kind of what this is about. This is about me like going off on tangents and over explaining things. And before I actually do an edited video, I just want to talk about that. Like I said, it's just a spontaneous live stream. But with my last video, I was reading this post. Good morning. I love watching LOL. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's not morning for me. I don't even know what time it is. It's 12:55 a.m. for me. um, I just had to check my iPad. So, yeah, last week I titled the video My Problem with Capitalism, not as a way to really talk about capitalism, but just because I feel like that's what I was thinking about when I decided to write the post that I was reading in my last video. And I had a troll type person comment and call me a communist, and then he commented on my other video called Bisexuality, which again was spontaneous, and he he said, "Oh, communist, and now I'm bisexual, progress or something," just saying something stupid. So I replied both times, and I just I don't know. You can read what I said. I don't know if you can see it because it didn't come up. I had to edit it to have the newest comments come up first in order to even see it. I'm not sure. I probably just recognized it as like a troll comment or a hate comment or something, but it was pretty much the only comment that I got, so I figured I would reply. And I basically just said, it's nice to know you didn't even watch the video because I'm not even a communist and I'm also not even bisexual. So I don't know if I even talked about my own sexuality in that video, but I've talked about it on my channel before. I did this whole 30 episode live stream series called Fallen World, and I did it weekly, and I think I do need a little bit of incentive to get back on a schedule. But what I need to work on is getting everything out that I want to say that's just on the topic. I need to work on not going off on tangents and understand that if I end up going off on a tangent about all the other factors that play into what I'm talking about, I need to make them their own separate videos and be a little bit more organized, because I can't just be doing disorganized, rambling 40 minute live streams randomly. I need to be doing edited videos because I can't monetize my live streams. You know, if my channel is um, approved for monetization, then I can do like super chat and and still make money from live streams in that way. But my channel hasn't even been approved for monetization because I really don't have that much original content. If I apply, they're like, "You hardly have any videos, man." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I have so many videos." And then they're like, "Yeah, but they're live streams." They didn't say this. I've just figured this out on my own. They actually were kind of vague when they replied to why they couldn't monetize my channel. Um, but I basically just need to edit videos. And the reason that that's hard for me is because I don't have a schedule anymore. The only time that I had a schedule was when I was doing live streams. And that sort of gave me the freedom. My live streams were organized. I had a list of things I wanted to talk about, but it still gave me the freedom to talk and go off on tangents. They weren't the most organized, and I still have to edit the timestamps into the newest one, the last one that I did. But in order to do that, I have to watch it, and I just have been procrastinating that for like months. I still need to do that, and then I can move on. I'm also considering deleting some of my turbo topics and T talks and just completely restarting and just getting rid of the shorts. I don't know that I want to do shorts. I don't know that it's necessary to do shorts, and if I do, I think I can just call them shorts. I don't really like the name Tea Talks. I just prefer Turbo Topics. That was what I was originally going to call it. I think I could do that. I might want to say under 15 minutes instead of under 10 minutes because, you know, topic to topic, sometimes they might be longer than 10 minutes. I don't think it's necessary to make sure they're all under 10. So I might want to make some changes. Luckily, I think I've only done 2 or 3 turbo topics and 1 T talks. So we're going to call the turbo topics shorts if I do them in the future. And we're going to call T talks turbo topics, and we're going to change the length. And they're going to be on a schedule because I need that to actually have incentive to do it. Because the problem is that if I don't have a schedule or a deadline, I'm going to start overthinking, and then I don't know I'm like, oh, should I do it like this or should I do it like that? And then I just like, well, I have the option to just give up and not do it because I don't have a schedule. But if I say, well, I have to have a video by this time no matter what, then I'll just kind of be like, all right, just roll it off my shoulders and just say, just leave it as it is. It's good enough. And then that kind of takes some of the pressure off and it makes it easier. It hasn't yet, but it will make it easier for me to focus on the topic at hand, which is why Turbo Topics is a perfect name for it. Um, and that's why I don't like that I tried to call it Tea Talks. If anything, my live streams should be called Tea Talks because that was supposed to be kind of a pun on TED Talks and also my name starting with the letter T and then also like spilling tea, which was stupid. But I was really proud of myself when I came up with it because I thought that it was like, hey, it's a triple pun. And I was like, you know, it was stupid. But I named this video after something that George Carlin said, and it's an actual term if you look it up, verbal diarrhea. I just thought it was hilarious because when George Carlin said it, he was talking about how people are boring and they'll just go on and on and on and tell you about their stupid shit that you just don't care about at all. And he was giving this hilarious example about someone, uh, he just called it verbal diarrhea. He's like, and they just keep going on like verbal diarrhea, and they don't know when to shut up. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of what I do. So that's why I called this video that, because that's what I'm talking about. I'm just going to talk about whatever I want today. Like I said, that you don't have to watch this. It's not an important one. I got people saying hi, hello, for anyone who hasn't tuned out. People always watch my videos and they tune in and out like out of nowhere. But I always appreciate comments. I see I have 4 people watching now, which is unusual. Um, but hey, the joke, by the way, was he kept pointing out how, you know, someone is telling a story and they keep like pausing to give you stupid details, and they're like, you know, we were going to a cave and then, you know, my dad found a big dinosaur turd, a petrified dinosaur turd, 27-pounder, and you know, I think it was actually 8 years ago. That would have been close to Y2K, wouldn't it? And you know, whatever happened with that? Nothing ever happened. Everyone is always worried about that. Nothing ever happened. And they try so hard, and you're just sitting there like, yeah, what? So, and then my favorite part of that joke was when he finishes telling the story, and then he's like, 9 years ago. I know it was nine because my wife was pregnant with our first boy, Mahmoudi Ben El Saeed Ben Salam, and he's 10 now. Or is he? He's 11. He's either 11 or 5. And when he said that, I was dying because it just, I don't know, it's his delivery. That was part of his last stand-up show that he did on HBO before he died. For anybody who doesn't know, George Carlin is a comedian who died at the age of 71, I think, of a heart attack. And I think it was like a hereditary thing. He had had a heart attack before. It wasn't really anything he could control. But it's a shame because I know that he loved being alive and he enjoyed his life, which is really what it kind of inspires me is that he was such a happy person and at the same time always seemed so like miserable and was always complaining, but he wasn't really miserable. He just paid attention to things. And I think what he said is that in his personal life, he's really happy and he likes people as he meets them individually. But he says, "I love people as I meet them one by one, but I loathe and despise any group that they're a part of," which is a good way to detach and not be super connected to people. You don't have to take everything personally if you just understand that everyone's kind of the same. And I think he even said something like, "You can see the universe in someone's eyes," but then as soon as people get into a group or a crowd, they become sort of mindless. And that doesn't just mean physically in a group. Like the people are brainwashed all the time. They act when they're not being themselves. And I think it's really important to distinguish between when someone is acting out of fear and as a result of manipulation and societal pressure and all sorts of factors that play into someone's behavior where it's not really their authentic self. You need to be able to tell when you're actually talking to the person versus when you're talking to their fears and they're saying things that they don't really mean. They don't know that they don't mean it, and they might not always tell you, but you have to be able to detach and not take it personally, which is really hard because we are emotional beings. We care about each other. We want people to like us. We want to have people that are friends with us. But you just have to know that um, by being real, you're only going to lose fake people. You can't just compromise any part of yourself so that people like you. You have to know what your boundaries are and be really firm with them all the time and know how you deserve to be treated. As soon as you start to believe that you deserve to be treated in a way that's, I don't know, anything less than loving, you just you just lose yourself and you get sucked into this tornado. George Carlin was exceptionally good at staying away from that and just enjoying his life and being a really honest and genuine person. And I think he was ahead of his time. His comedy is still relevant, which is disturbing because it's been over 30 years since his most popular comedy. I think like started in the 90s. It's 2021, and he's been doing comedy for way longer than that. I think he has started his HBO shows in the 70s, and everything that he's said since then is still relevant. There's a couple jokes that have, like, worn out with time just due to technology, but really, as a species, we haven't really evolved that much since then. Not too much has changed. Um, he didn't really believe in voting, and I think one of my favorite points that he made about that, he goes, I'm sure I know that you have one of those swell elections that you love coming up, and I'm sure as soon as the election is over, your country will improve immediately. And it just kind of feeds into the point that nothing has changed. Nothing really improves, nothing changes. There's little treats here and there, things that change, as people demand them. But on a larger scale of what's really important, nothing important has actually changed. It's still the same system. It's still oppressive, and it's still hurting people every day. And sometimes, as I'm just getting a peek into the world, whether it's talking to friends or watching TV, it just makes me almost want to cry about how tragic it is that people are like just t- totally ruining their lives. I mean, really, you just watch these people tear their own lives apart just because of fear. And people will literally kill themselves, literally ruining their lives. And then there's people who will figuratively ruin their lives by turning down opportunities to be in a relationship or job, and or just to go where you want to go, to do what you want to do, to be happy. You just keep choosing fear, and to watch it hurt other people, and to know that the person doing it is hurt. I like the saying hurt people, because first of all, it's a really important thing to keep in mind. And I read this post on Instagram a couple weeks ago that said, like, um, if if you can't reach, if you have something that, I'm botching the quote, but it was something like, if you want to reach me or you want to say something to me, do it in a loving way. Otherwise, I'll just tune it out. Which is kind of, it's a good way to think about things. Of course, you shouldn't ever just brush off criticism, because there's always things that people say to you, or you have to think about it, and you're like, you know what? Maybe you do have a point. Maybe I haven't been paying attention to this part of myself. Maybe I have been being an asshole, whatever it is. And, there's a lot of people who don't really find the balance. People will brush off criticism and say, who are you to ever say anything bad about me? And then there's the people who just take criticism to heart, and everything anyone says, they're always thinking about it. I'm a little bit like that. Definitely overthinker. I'm always trying to be really sensitive. I kind of shrink myself, and I don't think that's fair, because I I'm not stupid, and I think I have a lot to offer the world. I think that I used to think a much more realistic version of myself. I was never arrogant. I was never like, I'm so much better than all the other kids in my class. But I always knew that I was different, and I didn't think that it was good or bad. I just knew that I was going where I was going, and everyone else was going where they were going, and I was able to tell when people were lost, when people didn't know where they were going, and I felt bad for them, but I didn't feel like they were beneath me. I didn't judge them. I just felt bad for them, because it's sad to watch people kind of get sucked into that tornado and not know where they're going. They're directionless. They're floaters. And, you know, you don't want to be a floater in life. You want to move with intention. And, it's really hard to maintain your sense of self-respect, and that you have to keep going where you're going, regardless of where everyone else is going. You have to know where you're headed. And, your goals should always be based around, um, I think how it works. I wanted to do a video, and I'm probably going to do a edited video on this part of Turbo Topics, um, where I explain the concept of love and fear in a way that I recently came to understand it. Which, I think I've talked about this a lot on my channel, but I'm always learning new ways to explain it, and I think this way is kind of the clearest. Excuse me, I'm gonna burp. It went away. Um, this way is kind of the clearest, and it's also something that I did before. Um, Back when I first started talking about love and fear, I'm aware that there's this kind of bias against, like, spiritual things and anything that kind of has to do with, like, love and light and stuff like that, and crystals, and, like, Lord made a song called Mood Ring, kind of mocking that mentality. And I understand it on some level, that it is, a lot of people have just kind of taken spirituality and completely muddied it with, like, capitalism and greed, and people are trying to profit off of it. And then you got, those are the dupers, and then you got the dupees, who just buy into all of it, and then they promote it, and then they just, it puts a bad taste in people's mouths, because they just look at you and they watch you, and they're like, you're just buying into a bunch of bullshit. And they hear you talk about it, and it's an eye roll. The second love and fear comes out of your mouth, you're going to get a ton of eye rolls. It's inevitable. And knowing that is just so irritating to me, because when you understand it on a level that I do, it's not even a question. It's not even like, oh, this is my belief and this is my understanding of it. It's like, no, this is how it works, and I can explain very clearly why and how it works this way. But if you're not going to listen because you just think it's all a bunch of nonsense, then I don't really have a voice as far as you're concerned. So, it's just frustrating to see how a lot of good things have been muddied with all the stuff that just exists in our culture, and then all the bad things that are constantly promoted and thought of as healthy. people who are trying so hard to be successful. I've been seeing, I don't know why, I don't know if it's because I click on them and then they start showing me more of it, but I've been seeing a lot of posts on Instagram lately suggested to me. By the way, I don't follow anybody on Instagram, so everything that gets suggested to me is based on posts that I share and posts that I view and interact with. And they tell me that, they're like, based on posts you've interacted with. And I'm like, okay. So if I click on a post, they know it, and then they're going to keep showing me other stuff like that. And they've been showing me a lot of posts about success lately, and from accounts that are teaching you how to be successful financially. And what I've noticed is this, every time I read it, it gets this kind of like icky feeling about it, because there's something about it that feels dishonest. There's something about it that feels dirty, and I can't put my finger on it. But I thought about it, and I realized that it's the intention. They're talking, some of the advice is good, that's why I couldn't put my finger on it. It makes sense, on a surface level, but it's missing a core piece, and that is intention. That's what is your real motive here. And of course, the idea is to be so successful and rich that you are able to just buy a private island and not have to worry about anything in your life, to maybe buy a mansion, swim in a pool, whatever you want, but to also still be actively smart with your money. The problem is that when you live with this mentality, you begin to develop a superiority complex. You begin to see other people as not as smart as you, because you think, well, I learned how to be successful all on my own. Nobody taught me. I was just smart. And, I wasn't born to privilege. A lot of these people actually came into life with a lot of struggle and hardship. And sure, some of them were just born into wealth, but a lot of people really work for it, and they think that makes that think they think that everyone else is, it's kind of their own problem. It's like, well, I came from nothing and look where I ended up. You can do it too. And if you can't do it, it's just because you're not smart enough. And they kind of develop this mentality, at least in the back of their minds. But of course, nobody wants to ever think of themselves as a bad person. We have all these words that we're afraid of: ego, arrogance, selfishness. Nobody, if you ever think that those words apply to you, you're going to immediately want to reject it. No one ever wants to own up to those things applying to them. But the truth is that we all act in that way sometimes. We all have a bit of arrogance. We all are selfish sometimes. And we all have an ego. And what the fuck are you talking about? Well, you censored it, but I didn't censor it because I don't think it's necessary. Um, this is called verbal diarrhea for a reason. I'm just rambling. If you're not interested, don't listen. But to answer your question, I'm talking about, right now anyway, I'm just talking about Instagram posts that I've been seeing about success. And you might want to rewind this and watch from the beginning if you don't know, or just go back like 2 minutes if you need to catch up. I think you can rewind live streams while they're still live. Um, but yeah, so okay. Yeah, where did I leave off? I was talking about people people who are, I totally lost my place. Man, this is why I'm way too, like, I go off on tangents. I don't stay focused enough. It'd be really good for me to just do edited videos that are super focused on a topic, because what I'm talking about right now is important, I think, and I want to do a video about this specifically where you don't have to ask me something like, what the fuck are you talking about? But it's all in the video. If you care to watch it, it's 23 minutes so far. There it was. I knew I had a burp. I'm so sorry. Um, I I really don't think I've ever made a video where I didn't burp at least once. At least not one of my longer ones. Obviously, if this was edited, I would have edited it out. So none of my live streams. I just burp a lot. I think it's because I talk too fast. Um, but I was talking about. Um, I see there's only 2 people watching. This has 5 likes. Sorry, I have to keep leaning in. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see the numbers. Maybe I should just put them on real quick, so I don't have to keep leaning in to see stuff. I mean, I have them right here, so why not? There you go. Yep, that's a 2 and a 5. Okay. Um. Yeah, where did I leave off? Can somebody tell me what I was talking about? Like, seriously, I really don't know. Um, for those of you who are watching this, um, not live after it's been posted, please just like skip ahead until you see me back on track, because this is embarrassing, and I kind of wish I could edit it out. I'm just gonna start talking about something else. So, success. I was talking about success, and the idea of like buying a private island or working. Now I remember. Okay, yeah. People who think that they're superior because they've worked as hard to get where they're going, and then they realize that don't skip ahead now, obviously, but if you already did, I don't know. I'm kind of mad that I remembered right after I was certain that I wasn't going to, but sometimes that's just how it works. Um, yeah, I was talking about arrogance and ego. Yeah, people when they think that they're superior to you, and people are afraid of words like that applying to them. You're like, oh well, I don't have an ego problem. You immediately get defensive. You immediately, I think, but the last thing I said before somebody commented was that everybody has an ego, and I was going to elaborate on that before I went back to what I was talking about. Again, tangents, but just bear with me because it's all worth listening to. I think because why else would I say it? Um, I don't know if that's arrogant, but like I really don't think I would say it if it wasn't worth listening to. I try not to say things that aren't worth hearing, but I admit it is a little bit sloppy and disorganized and hard to understand if you're I don't know if you're not watching the whole thing, or if you're I don't know, you might need to like listen again. This is why it's a live stream, so you can ask me questions if something I'm saying doesn't make sense to you. That's I think why I enjoyed doing live streams. Maybe I could do live streams and then download them and then edit it and upload an edited version. But I don't know. I would kind of just like to do. I could do premieres. Yeah, I'll do edited videos. I'll upload it as a premiere, and then there will be a live chat, so I can answer questions as you go along. Because I understand that no matter what, there's going to be confusion. Um, and that's okay. I will always try my best to explain it in the clearest way. It's not always going to work. But everybody has an ego. And what that means is that's sort of like what makes you an individual. I think without an ego, there's really nothing. I think of like consciousness and existence as a large ocean. And us as human beings, as individuals, as beings, whether it's a dog or a cat or any kind of life form, a human, whatever it is. I'm me, you're you. But the thing is that it's like the ocean, just in a water bottle. You just take a bottle, you fill it up with water, you put a cap on it, and that's a person. Your consciousness is in a vessel, but it's still the same consciousness. It's all connected. We're all made of the same material. I mean, physically, we all come from the earth. Everything that we're made of comes from this planet, and not even this planet, but just the universe. Just anything that exists. We're not magically creating matter. We're using matter that already exists. That's just how it works. You get into a bathtub, and you're not. If the bathtub is filled to the top, water is going to come spilling out the sides when you get in because it's making room for you. The water isn't just going to stop existing to make room for you. You're not going to be able to get into it and have it act like you're not there, because that's just how it works. Things move to make room for something else. Nothing disappears and nothing just comes into existence. Everything that exists now has always existed and it will always exist because that's just how it works. At least that's how it works in the physical aspect of things. But if you want to get into like consciousness and other dimensions, it's a little bit more complicated and hard to explain. But the best way that I could simplify it is to think of it as all the same thing and all kind of an illusion. So the illusion of separation, that we're different from each other, that is ego. That's why when you get rid of fear, this is why I was brought me back to what I first started talking about. I was talking about love and fear, I and I was going to explain my new way of explaining that, and then I went off on a tangent, started talking about rich people, and here we are again, back to it. I always come back to my points last video I didn't. Last video I ended it before I remembered what I was talking about, and I actually had to leave a comment finishing my explanation, but I pinned the comment so you can see it if you want to. I probably should have just put that in the description, but I don't know, people don't always look at the description. You're more likely to go to the comment section. So, so sorry about that. I really do try not to burp, but like I said, I think it's me talking too much. It happens, I'm human. Anyway, Love and Fear is basically the idea that love and fear are the only two emotions. I think of it as love and fear is kind of all that exists. It's sort of like a scale. I think the best way to explain anything is to put it on a scale, top to bottom, and that helps you know that there are different levels and extremes. Because people always think of it as black and white, but it's not. It starts at white, goes down to black, but as it's getting to black, there are different shades, and in the middle, it's gray. And it's going down like that, and you have to be aware of where you are on that scale. Nobody's 100% at the top. If you're human, that's a given. You're not going to be at the very top. And some people do sink pretty low. I don't think anybody gets to the very bottom, because that would be a complete loss of your humanity, and that would be when the ego just completely devours you, and there's no you anymore. I was just watching. Spoiler alert: if you haven't seen the show Sex Education on Netflix, I am about to share information of something that happened in the second season. So, um, don't watch this next part if you haven't seen this. Just pause it and go watch the show. The third season is coming out on Friday, at least at the time of me making this. But in the second season, the head teacher um, was pissed that his wife was not talking to him and didn't want to be with him, and he was trying to take it out on someone. And he knew that he could blame this other teacher who she'd been talking to, who's not really a teacher, but she was working at the school temporarily, and he decided to blame her because she'd been hanging out with his wife, and he decided that she must have been corrupting her, telling her things about him, rather than just, you know, owning up to the fact that he did it to himself and that she wouldn't have left him just because someone told her to. She only would leave him if she genuinely didn't want to be with him. And he decided to do something really petty and try to get this woman fired from his school by sharing information that was supposed to be private. And then it just caused a whole mess. And he didn't have to do that. And I just was watching this, watching him do that, and thinking to myself, wow, that is sinking really low on that scale. And what that means is that you've lost your sense of self respect. I mean, wouldn't you rather look at, people get so, um, I didn't read what you just wrote. I'm sorry, it disappeared and I can't get it to come back. But people get so caught up. Just comment it again, and I'll see it, or I'll see it when in the live chat replay tomorrow when this is posted. But people get so caught up in revenge, and they get so um, there's like high and low. That's how I think of it on the scale. And if you go low, that's when you're not really thinking about what you really want and who you really are. And when you sort of separate from the truth and reality and you've gotten so caught up in emotion, never listen to your emotions. Emotions are often going to lie to you because emotions are fickle. You want something one day, you want something else the next day. Don't listen to your emotions. You have to listen to your logic instead. Your logic isn't always going to be right either. But you know, if you're trying to listen to your intuition, it's important to know that your intuition is usually going to match your logic rather than your emotions. And the reason for this is that when you act on your emotion like that teacher was doing, you are you're focusing on what you want, what you think you want. And he in his mind, he wanted his wife back, and he was blaming this woman for losing his wife, and he just wanted revenge on this woman. And he just, I don't know if he thought that it would get his wife back, or if he just thought it would feel good to get back at her. When is the next live? I have to go, and I like the things you talk. Okay, the next live, I don't know. Um, I go live usually when everyone else in my house is asleep, because that's just when I feel that I have the space to talk about what I want to talk about without other people maybe hearing me or listening to me without a bunch of background noise. During the day, there's a lot of stuff that goes on outside that makes noise. This morning I woke up and there was this awful rumbling noise. I just heard a door open and I think someone's going to the bathroom, which is right on the other side of that wall, right behind where my phone is. So, yeah, someone's on the toilet right now. Not on the toilet, but I just heard the toilet lid open. See, this is what I'm talking about. Isn't it weird that as soon as I mentioned it, here comes a noise? But, you know, this morning when I woke up, there was this awful pulsating noise that I can't even explain it. It was this deep vibration that was like, and I had my head on my pillow. I'm trying to sleep and I couldn't even hear it. I still don't know where it was coming from or what it was or anything about it, but there's just noises. You know, yard work and the neighbors and just weird shit. Just daytime noises. So I prefer to do my videos at night and after everyone's asleep, so there's not like TV noises and people walking around and stuff. So when everyone's asleep, it's usually quiet, unless like right now somebody decides to go to the bathroom. I can hear them washing their hands, and that's that. They're done. Okay. I always get nervous that somebody can hear me. Not that they would care, but I don't know. It feels weird to talk knowing someone might be listening to you, but they're also not hearing you in context. They don't know what you're talking about or anything, and then you have to choose your words more carefully. It's just annoying. I just prefer to. It's just me talking to the camera, and whoever decides to watch this video, and then I know who could be watching this is people who know what the video is titled, and it just gives me a little bit more of a sense of peace to know that who is watching this has deliberately clicked on the video, and that's true for everyone watching this. A combination of logic and emotions. Okay, I hear what you're saying, but um, I think you're confusing emotion with intuition. I think that your emotions are. I still say your emotions are fickle. You know, you have to know that it's not. Emotions aren't useless, but they lie to you. And that's not to say, you know, I think people always say follow your heart and stuff, and that's not bad advice by any means, but, you know, I think people misinterpret it a lot. People don't really know what they're doing, and that's okay. You know, listen to your emotion, listen to your intuition, your gut, you know, you know what you want. You know who you are and you know what you want. You just come into the world and you have all these different things that make you forget it. You know, you have the culture that you're born into and the things that you hear from people who are raising you and all sorts of things that just get in your head, and then you don't know who you are anymore. You don't know what you want anymore, and you know what you're supposed to want and you know who you're supposed to be, and then you go somewhere else and you're supposed to be somebody else, and you're around new people and you're supposed to want different things, and it's like it's just you don't really know what you want anymore. And you don't even know that you don't know what you want because people always tell you follow your emotions. And then you think you are following your emotions, but your emotions change. Your emotions aren't you. You're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions. And that's why that teacher who tried to be petty and spiteful and get revenge, he was acting on his emotions because he thought I'm mad at this woman and I'm going to do this. But if he was really proud of himself, he could look at himself and say, that is something. Intuition is very different from emotions. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Um yeah, I'm saying that your intuition is rarely going to match your emotions. So you shouldn't listen to your emotions. You know, once in a blue moon your emotions and your intuition are going to match up. But most of the time your logic is going to match your intuition. But either way, you should always be listening to your intuition. That's the only thing that will always take you to where you actually want to go and keep you being authentic and, most importantly, joyful. People forget that they're supposed to actually enjoy life because people get so caught up in all the expectations and what they're supposed to want and everything. They don't even realize that they're doing it because it's just been so normalized. They don't even know that there's any other option. And I think there's thunder. I hear my dog barking. I hear the thunder. You might be able to hear it. I'm not sure. If you can hear my dog barking, I'm sorry. I can't really do anything about it. Um, it happens. We've had thunderstorms almost every night, and just last night, my mom said, because the thunder was so loud and consistent, um, my mom has a weird sense of humor, by the way. I don't look at my child with intuition. I don't know what that means. I'm not going to say what my mom said anymore because I want to address that. It was just a joke my mom made. It was a weird joke. It's funny. If you want to know what it is, go ahead and ask, but I'm not going to say it unless somebody asks. I don't look at my child with intuition. I really don't know how to interpret that. If you're talking about your childhood, if you're like looking at your past when you're growing up, that's one thing. If you're talking about a child, if you have a child, um, you have to know that when you're parenting them, it's your job to keep healthy boundaries. Your child is not you. Um, you don't want to be like a helicopter parent. You also don't want to um, go like the opposite direction and be super easy on your kid. Just let them do whatever they want, no rules. I think people have a hard time finding balance. People are very one or the other. Like I said, black and white. They don't want to see things as a scale. They want to see things as black and white because it's easier to understand. And people have become very lazy and entitled. And again, I blame this on our culture. Um, because people just don't, people are just used to getting whatever they want and not really having to take responsibility. They're just constantly excused because lazy and self disrespecting behavior has become normal and promoted and encouraged, and we think of it as healthy, and it's not, it's never been. And there are so many other cultures out there that look at this type of stuff and they're like, what is going on? Just like Western culture in general. And they're like, what are you people doing? This is ridiculous. We're a laughing stock. And then we think that, other cultures are weird. It's the other way around. But hey, culture in general is something to watch out for. There's a reason that the word cult is in the word culture. You have to watch out for anything that is encouraging you to compromise any part of yourself just to fit in with a group. It's important to know that there is no one true religion. If there was, we would have figured it out by now, and everyone would agree that it's the truth. The reason nobody can agree on the true religion is because there's no irrefutable proof behind any religion. It's just a bunch of different sets of beliefs that people buy into. And I think personally, all religions have a bit of truth in them, but I don't think there is one single religion that is 100% factual and everyone should go by it. I have a child, I don't look at them with intuition, I look at them with love. That doesn't mean I don't discipline them. Okay, well, yeah, you should look at them with love, but that is intuition. Okay, see, I think the problem is language. I use the language that I think makes the most sense, but we have sort of strayed from understanding what certain words mean, but you kind of have to use these words in order for it to make sense. Love isn't emotion as much as it is just your natural state, just who you really are, because this is something I've been trying to explain, and I keep going off on tangents, I'm so sorry. But I've been trying to explain that, on that scale of like high and low, which I still haven't even elaborated on. I have to go to school. Have a nice day. Yes, you too. I hope to see you again next time. Um, but to the person talking about their child, I agree about the religion view. Yeah. Um, to the person talking about their child, I want to say that, you know, you don't have to look at your child with intuition. I think that's sort of detached. And the way you describe it, I think what you're thinking of when you say that is kind of a detached mentality of like, always trying to do the right thing and not really having a personal relationship and connection with your child. And without love, there's no reason to exist. There's nothing. And I'm not talking about romantic love or that stereotypical, like, peace and love and light and blah, 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 and all the stuff that people say. I'm just talking about the only real alternative to fear. Because when you are afraid, you're not really able to relax. You're in survival mode. Let's just use that example. The idea, I see that nobody's watching, so to the person who asked about their child, if you want to tune in, if you're listening to this, I know it's not live, but I'm still going to answer your question in case you want to tune in and watch this later. But and just for anyone else who needs to hear this, because I know that that person speaks for a lot of people who think the same way and who don't really understand what I mean when I say things like that. You're going to hear this a lot as you start learning more about like spirituality, the idea of like love and fear and emotion and intuition and all this kind of stuff. Um, okay, I'm here. There you are. It still says zero. I'm not sure why it says zero people are tuned in. Um, it still says that. I don't know why. It's very strange. I thought it would update when you said that, but either way, um, there's just I don't know technology. It's goofy sometimes. Like it even took you a second to say that. Even when I saw your comment, it had to have been a good like 5-10 seconds after you posted it, because I said something about that. I feel like you probably would have typed that as soon as I acknowledged that you weren't there and said, no, wait, I'm here. But I didn't see that you were here until like 30 seconds after I said that. So there's clearly a delay, and it still says nobody's watching. So I don't understand that. But anyway, um, you have to know that with the terminology, it doesn't always mean how you initially interpret it. And I think this applies to a lot of things. A lot of situations where people disagree is you have to keep in mind that we're all the same, and usually we actually agree, and we just don't realize it. I found this a lot is that people are so focused, and this is ego. They're so focused on proving their point that they forget that we're all connected and that we all want the same things. And we argue and we judge and we forget to just step back and say, hold on, who actually is this person? Sometimes you are dealing with someone who is toxic and abusive and they don't take any responsibility for their energy or their behavior. And to be around them is like walking up to a tornado and expecting to just stay on the ground. You're going to get sucked up. You're not going to be in control. But you walked near that tornado. Maybe it snuck up on you. I don't know. But either way, you have to know when to put your foot down. It happens. You get kidnapped. You can't always control it. Sometimes stuff sneaks up on you. You can't always control it. But you have to know when it's up to you to walk closer to the tornado and to walk away. That doesn't mean that you're judging the tornado, but you can't deny the fact that people are not always in control. People are not always taking ownership and responsibility for their behavior. And it is always important to take care of yourself and respect yourself, even if it means telling someone you love, back off, even if it means ending a friendship. You know, friends are supposed to be there for you. They are supposed to make you feel heard and comfortable. They're not supposed to stress you out. Your relationship is not supposed to be confusing or stressful. And my God, if you are in a relationship, talk to your partner. I don't know why so many people have a hard time understanding this. There is nothing wrong with just telling your partner how you feel. Excuse me. Please stop going behind your partner's back to figure them out. Just talk to them. And if you can't talk to them, it's not a relationship. If you're thinking about ending things, but you're not sure, because what if you regret it afterwards and you realize you're not going to find anybody better? You know, you already had it good and you didn't appreciate it. Talk to them. If it's actually a healthy relationship that is meant to work, you will be able to communicate this with them and they'll understand. If they don't understand and it ends things, and then you end up in a situation where you realize you had something really good and you ruined it. You didn't ruin it. It wasn't that good to begin with. You wouldn't have wanted to end things if it was that good to begin with. And you would have been able to talk with your partner about it and they would have understood it if it was something to keep going. Your relationships should not stress you out, and I cannot stress this enough. You are not incomplete without someone else. You don't need someone else to make you whole. You're already a whole person. So just get that idea out of your head that there's some person that you're waiting for to complete you. We have people that we interact with that are supposed to help us, and we learn from each other. We work with each other, and we're happy with each other. We're genuinely enjoying each other's presence. And sometimes we're around people who teach us lessons. Even that toxic relationship, you learn something from it. And they had an opportunity to learn something. Whether they chose to do that or not, it's on them. But you have to make sure that you're doing your part and you're learning something from it so it doesn't keep happening. You keep experiencing the same situations until you learn that lesson. But you are entitled to a relationship that's healthy. You deserve that. But it doesn't mean that you have to wait for your knight in shining armor to come complete you, whether you're a man or a woman, whoever you're waiting for. I don't care. Just knight in shining armor just to represent the person that you're waiting for, whether it's the girl of your dreams, the man of your dreams, the envy of your dreams, which means non-binary if you don't know. Um, and just to acknowledge that there are people who don't conform to just two genders. My personal take on that, I think that gender is in everything, and I think that everybody has both. Many people don't recognize that having a relationship doesn't mean sacrificing our boundaries. Yeah, that's true, and that applies to so many other areas of our life. There's so many situations where we feel guilty. Again, with that show I was watching, Sex Education, there was this really sad storyline at the end of the season that, a drug addict mother had to be reported by her teenage daughter, and she really gave her a nice guilt trip at the end there and was like, I'll never forgive you for this, and I was really trying, and I thought everything was fine, and it was just one time, and and I knew you were going to take my 3-year-old daughter, and how could you do this to me, she said to the teenager. And just like, people do this all the time, and it is so hard to hear that from someone that was supposed to take care of you and supposed to love you, someone that you love and you want to do what's best for them. You have to know that you are doing what's best for them. And if they can't appreciate that, if they can't understand how hard it was for you to do that, um, then they're in the wrong. And it's not even that they're in the wrong, it's just that it's not your responsibility. Just let it go. That's their lesson to learn. Hello from Brazil. I feel like so many people have told me that they're from Brazil on my channel. I don't know if it's the same few people, but I've heard that quite a few times. I don't know what it is about Brazil that people seem to like my channel from Brazil. Um, and kind of the same thing with Omegle. I don't really use that site anymore, but it's a chat site where you can just meet random people. And I would often meet people um, from, what was it? The Philippines. I would often meet people from the Philippines there. It's weird. It's like this one specific location, a bunch of people from there. Just you keep running into them in the same places. And it's like, why? Why not people from, I don't know, anywhere else? Like, why this specific place? It just seems random. But it's because we want to learn English with you. I know, but why not like at any other place that doesn't speak English? Like, I don't know. It's just weird to me that it's like Brazil instead of, I don't know, China or Russia or I don't know, like India. Just Brazil. It's just sort of there, and it's like just another option. There's so many countries, so many languages. There's hundreds of languages, but there's so many people from Brazil. Why specifically Brazil instead of any other country that doesn't speak? I don't know. It's probably from when I used to upload music, and I had a lot of different artists on my channel, and people like artists from all around the world. Maybe one of the artists that I uploaded had a big following in Brazil. I'm not going to put that much thought into it. It doesn't matter. It's just something I decided to talk about. But hey, I'm allowed to, because this one's actually called Verbal Diarrhea. So I'm just fully owning that it is just going to be a bunch of tangents and nonsense. Mixed in with, I think, hopefully good advice. But it's because we have one thing called Dog from the Streets Complex. I don't know what that means. I'm gonna be honest. But okay. I need a drink. Picked up the wrong one. Take it as a compliment. You speak English well. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that because I try. English has always been an interest of mine. I don't know if it's just because I'm a writer, but I've always been really like, I know a lot of English rules that a lot of people don't know about. So, it means we feel less than you that speak English. Okay, well, it doesn't. English is a hard language to learn. I remember when I was in like second grade, I think it was second or third grade, I was learning Spanish, and I don't know Spanish, by the way. I didn't end up actually learning it, and I still am monolingual, but I learned that the teacher said that English is one of the hardest languages to learn, and that surprised me because I look at a language like Chinese and I see that there's like simplified Chinese and traditional Chinese and like 1,000 letters in the alphabet, and they all look the same to me anyway, and I'm like, English is hard. But then I think about all the rules that there are and the fact that I'm still learning new rules in English and that some of them are contradictory and confusing. There's words that are pronounced the same but spelled differently and vice versa. And there's so many different aspects to this language that is just you're never going to be done learning new things about it. There's no such thing as someone who knows absolutely everything there is to know about English, even if you studied it for years. There's still going to be one word that you've never heard or one rule that you've never learned. And that's just because it's that complicated of a language. Um, and it amazes me. In Brazil, speak Portuguese. I have a friend from Brazil, um, and he doesn't speak English too well, but I still understand him. I don't really care if you're really good at, or bad at speaking a language as long as I can understand what you're trying to tell me. That's all that matters to me. And I'm always gonna have my phone on me, so if I'm ever in a situation where I need to translate, I can just I don't know use Google Translate or something and just figure it out from there. But there's so many places to go and so many languages to learn. I'm definitely not going to learn all of them, and I don't really know where I'm going to be or what languages I'm going to end up with in my lifetime. So if I'm going to put the time into learning a second language or a third language or a fourth language, I would have to base it on what languages I'm most likely to have a use for. And I just don't know, because like, how am I supposed to know where I'm going to be and what languages I'm going to have a use for? I'm planning on do you have afraid to get 30 years? I don't know what you're asking, honestly. If you're asking if I'm afraid to be 30 years old, I'm 19. I'm going to be 20 in October, October 7th to be exact. So that's still 10 years away, and I'm not afraid to be 30. I'm actually looking forward to getting older because of all the things that I want to do in that time. And I don't really care about aging. I just care about getting stuff done because it's exciting to me. I want to. There's so many things that I want to do with my life, and I'm excited when I think about them. And I'm finally putting some stuff into motion and getting going. With my YouTube channel, I want to have active content, but I also am trying to go to a college and figure stuff out in that respect. A film school. I don't know if it'll be like a full 4 year thing. I probably don't need 4 years, but just something to kind of get me out there and going so that I can make um, this movie that I have in my head and like get it written and kind of just get it into production because I want to direct it and I want to write it and I just there's so many other movies that I want to write and direct. I have at least three other movies planned after that one, and let's not ask my age. I won't. I don't care how old you are. Age is just a number. Age really only matters um if you're crossing boundaries with someone. There's some things that it's just not appropriate to talk about with people who are under a certain age just because just because it's not your place, just based on maturity, like, you know, um do you like Blackpink? I don't really like music that isn't in English, with a couple exceptions. There's a couple songs I like where I like the Spanish version better, but for the most part, I prefer music with lyrics that I can understand. And I also just don't like that genre of music in general. Like Sour Candy by Lady Gaga, Blackpink is in that song, and they're speaking English. At least for the most part, I think. I haven't heard that song in a minute, so I forgot if there's um, not English lyrics or Korean or whatever language they speak. I don't know if it's Japanese or Korean or something. I don't know if it's K-pop, but whatever it is, that genre of music is just not has never really interested me. It's just a personal taste. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just not my thing. Um, but I know a lot of people love it, and I feel like it's always interesting to see what is super popular when everyone's listening to, and I'm like, why though? And I just don't get it, but I don't judge people for it because I wouldn't want anybody to judge me for the music that I like. Um, And that's that. So yeah, anyway, thank you. Just called me an intelligent person. Um, well, I appreciate that. I I don't know. I was talking about when I was in school before, and I used to kind of go my own way, and along the way I kind of got lost because I I knew who I was at first and for a while, but as I got older, around like 10, 11, 12, I started to be a little bit more anxious. And I talked about this in my video called Introducing Myself. I think it was episode 21 of my show Fallen World. But I gave a lot of really specific information. I actually listen to everything from rock to classical. Yeah, the thing is that with certain artists, there are some artists I follow who I like them enough that I would like any genre they did. Yeah, the person just said that it's strange to hear me say I don't like music that's not in English because they listen to music that's in English all the time and they don't understand the lyrics. Um, I really don't know what to tell you. I just like to understand what the song is about, and you know, it's like I said, there's songs that don't even have lyrics that I like, and songs that aren't in English that I like. It's just not as common. You know, once in a while I'll find a song that I like that doesn't have lyrics or that the lyrics aren't in English. But usually I like, I don't know, I don't want to talk about music. It's a whole thing. But you know, it is what it is. I really like Lana Del Rey, just because what I like about her is that she creates kind of an atmosphere with her songs that when I first started listening to her, it was back in 2015, and I was 13 years old. I was 14 years old. I'm sorry. It was at the end of the year. It was just after I turned 14, and I was listening to her album that was new at the time, Honeymoon, and the third track on it when I was listening to it, I was playing a game at the time, so it was just sort of like in the background, but it stood out to me and I remembered it. And I went back and listened to it again, and that was the first time that I really realized that I liked her as an artist. And before that, all I knew her as was the artist that people were comparing. People were saying that another artist I liked was trying to be like her, so I just thought of her as that artist, but then I kind of liked her on her own after that. And the song was called Terrence Loves You, and it just kind of created this atmosphere that was really peaceful and like almost dreamy. Ah, okay, so dog on the street complex means you like everything from other countries and hate stuff from Brazil. My friend from Brazil kind of had a similar attitude, I think. I really am not like super educated on stuff from other countries, but I learn bits and pieces here and there in ways like that. But I just don't take the time to study what's going on in other countries because I've been so fascinated by what's going on in my own country. And sometimes I learn about other stuff and it's like fascinating to see all the similarities. I always like thinking about what we have in common because I like to know that I'm talking to anybody from anywhere in the world and that I try to shrink the topics to things that everyone can relate to no matter where you are. But sometimes I do get a bit specific and I talk about things that only apply to America, the United States, and that's okay because even if you don't live here, I love Lana Del Rey. Ultraviolence was the best album of the last decade. Yeah, it's a good album. It's not my personal favorite, but it's great. I like all of her music. I don't think she's um, capable of making something that I wouldn't like. I've heard everything that she's made. There's some things that I'm like, they're okay, but I still don't dislike it. I don't think I've ever heard a song from her that I was like, this is horrible. I never want to listen to this again. So, um, I've made music that I'm not too proud of because I made it as a character based on my grandpa. and I'm imitating my grandpa's voice when I'm singing, and I'm like that about Ireland because I am 60% Irish. I don't know what I am, actually. I don't know, like, I've never got like DNA tests or anything. I know that I have Italian heritage um, on my mom's side. Don't know too much on my dad's side. I don't know. I know that I've always lived in New York. It's really about all I could tell you. Um, but I'm sure that I've got a bit of Irish in me. I saw this funny video. Conan O'Brien found out that he was 100% Irish from his doctor, and he said, "What does that mean?" And the doctor just blatantly tells him, "It means you're inbred." He goes, "Nobody's 100% anything." So that was Conan O'Brien. It was funny. My mom showed it to me. I don't really watch him, but I think that sounds cool about your grandfather. Yeah, we used to do videos. I have this other channel called The Papa, and it is linked. If you go to my channel and go to the About section, you can see all of my other channels. I have a second channel that is just private. I have a lot of videos on there that are unlisted, and the only videos that are public are and one single album. It is a Lana Del Rey album, and a playlist of those videos. But you don't have to bother with that channel. Um, it's just my personal channel that I use to like subscribe and keep up with videos and stuff. This channel, I really only sign into it when I'm about to go live or post something. So, yeah. Also, I have YouTube Premium on that account. I don't have it on this account, so that's why I mainly use that one. I don't know if I'm writing right, but I think you are understanding. Yeah, I think I get it. Um, I think I get what you've been saying. The only thing I didn't get was something that you said before, and I think you elaborated on it. Um, how is it to live in New York? I don't know. It's not too different from any other state. I don't live in the city, if that's what you're wondering. I live in the suburbs, and I think I live in an area where there's a lot of like Trump supporters and conservatives. Like I drive down the street, there's like a Blue Lives Matter flag on the house, which just to quickly share my opinion on that. There, Smurfs aren't real. Okay, there's no such thing as blue lives. Blue people are not real. I don't understand how you can be ass kissing police and also saying that you're afraid of the government and you don't want to wear a mask. Pick a side. Are you afraid of the government or do you take their side? I just don't get it. The people who criticize Black Lives Matter, the biggest thing that I hear them say is they talk about statistics and they talk about how people who are not people who are killed in like by police are more likely to be white because police are afraid to be called racist, so they won't kill black people. They're hesitant. They're detesting the idea that racism is systematic, and I don't think they really understand what systemic racism is. And maybe I don't either, but when I say systemic racism, I am referring to the idea that racism is in our language, in our culture, in the way that we interact and think about each other. Because whether we acknowledge it or not, racism isn't just hating someone for the skin color or where they're from. Racism is everywhere. I have friends. I've seen it up close and personal. It's not just stuff that I've heard on the news. I've not been brainwashed. There is literally racism everywhere, no matter where you are in the country. And it is constantly overlooked because people will say ridiculously hateful things as if it's normal. People will use the word like, um, people like, people constantly, it's people think nobody uses the N word anymore. I hear people say things like chink and nigger and any hateful word that you could possibly think of. And everyone just says it, and it's like, not that big of a deal, but it is a big deal because those words carry a lot of weight. When you use them in the right context, if you're talking about them in a professional way, that's one thing. But if you are, this is something that George Carlin pointed out. The reason that people have kind of taken the focus off of the real issue and made it about the words. And this is why I use them, because it bothers me when people make it about the word instead of the racism. I think it does two things that I don't like. One, it makes people who advocate against racism look ridiculous because all they're really doing is saying, don't use that word, here's how offensive that word is. The R word, retard, retarded, the N word, like just everything that they can think of. I don't know if people say the M word, but like midget and stuff like that. People just any word that is considered offensive, people will make it about the word and they will try to change the language, but they're not actually changing the root of the problem. So, the people who disagree, the people who are like on the right or whatever, the people who just think of this as all a bunch of nonsense and there's no such thing as racism or homophobia or whatever, or they just are blatantly racist or homophobic. That's the two ways that they're either pretending it doesn't exist or they just are those things. And they're both on the same side, which kind of doesn't make sense. But I mean, I guess it does if you really think about it, because they're not the people who believe racism and homophobia and all this, bigotry doesn't exist, or that it's not really a systemic issue or anything. They're the same people who, by the way, I'm sorry, I know I said I would touch on this quickly, and I've been talking about it a lot longer than that, but I'm passionate about it, so just let me speak. The people who say that, they are definitely not woke. They're definitely not aware of what's going on. And they are able to look at the left. And the problem with the left is that it has been turned into a laughing stock for the right. It's because your societies was created in a slavism system, so all your behavior is based on. Yeah, this is the thing. This country was literally built by slaves. People came here with slaves. And what happened was there were people already living here. Um, and to be fair, they're not natives. They weren't here before. Nobody's a native anywhere. Everyone's from somewhere else, if you want to be technical. But, since the first people to come here were already here and they had their own civilization, somebody just sent me a long message and I wasn't able to read it because it was too long and it disappeared too fast. Um, but people come here and they were here, and then all of a sudden we come over and just sort of this Western cultures came here and kind of dominated everything that was already there. And these slave owners came here and said all men are created equal and we just want to be free. The irony, to be owning another human being and thinking you deserve freedom. Okay, go to a therapist, first of all. But really, like, how can you live in a country that was built by slave owners and slaves and people who came here and just raped and murdered the people that were already here and gave them barely anything? Oh, that's Native American land, or they own this part. They're just, you know, they've become the minority in their own country. They were here first, and it wasn't a deal. It wasn't, nothing was worked out or negotiated. It was just stolen. It is literally stolen land. Period. Christopher Columbus was not a hero. I don't understand. I was not taught that in school. I don't know if curriculums have changed since then, but when I was in school, which wasn't that long ago, remember I'm only 19, I learned about Christopher Columbus as this magical guy who discovered America. How great that he discovered this country. What? I understand not celebrating Columbus Day. I fully support that. Make it something to praise indigenous people instead. But please, don't act like Christopher Columbus was a hero. If you actually learn about some of the stuff that he did, you're either just really stupid or you're an asshole if you still support him after that. Because people just don't want to hear these things. And then again, this goes back to what I'm talking about, this laziness, this entitlement, instant gratification mentality that so many Americans have. People just don't want to hear anything that means they might have to actually get up and do something. That means that they're not already right, that they haven't already figured it out. They don't want to accept that they don't know everything, and that they might not already be on the right track and have the right idea of what's going on. They don't want to hear that they might not have already found the true religion. They don't want to hear that they might not be on the right political side. They don't want to hear that something they were taught as a child true. They're just too lazy to fully sit with what that mean. So they just brush it off and they argue with you. and they argue, and they do not back down. I've noticed from talking to many conservatives that they have no ears for criticism. They just don't hear anything you say. They argue with you no matter what you say, and they're very, very hard to communicate with. And when they argue, I try to listen to them and hear what they're saying. But everything they're saying is still based on the idea that the system in place is good. I don't celebrate Columbus Day. I celebrate Indigenous Day. Good for you. Yeah, exactly. Like it's just someone have asked about Brazil president and what he would do when his sons marry black women, and it never happened because he gave education for them. That sounds really messed up. Um, my grandma apparently, her dad, she dated a black woman once or went to the dance with not woman. She dated a black man once or went to the dance with a black man. And when her dad found out, he said something like, "How could you do this to me?" And he was like this really kind, wonderful person in other areas of his life, but there were some parts of his life where he just was like really um, suppressed and kind of sucked into that culture. And back then, I hear about this stuff. I barely knew him. He died when I was pretty young. I'm not sure. I don't remember how old I was, but I was old enough to know him and remember him and have an image of him. And I always knew him as a loving, kind person. But I hear about stuff like this, and it's like he wasn't really like angry or aggressive or violent. He loved life. He was happy. But my grandpa's like, yeah, and he loved life, and he's a great person, but he just hated black people. And I'm like, what? But that's the thing. It's just a thing that people do. He was crying and said, how could you do this to me? Because my grandma went out with a black man. Like, people do this to their children all the time. This is something that pisses me off so much because people like I said, people like to believe that they've already found the truth. And they are so intent on clinging to that for dear life that they will sacrifice their closest relationships. The people who are supposed to be close to them end up getting pushed away because they want to believe so much that they've already found the truth. And I'm talking about people who are, um, excuse me, I'm gonna burp. Sorry. It's just a skin color. I mean, really, it's not even that. It's just like there's different cultures. You come from different places, and depending on who you are, what you look like in your DNA, it plays a factor in a lot of aspects of your personality, but it doesn't change who you are. Um, and the proof of that is that if you look at like an Asian person raised in like white dominated culture and raised by white people is gonna really fit in with that culture and blend in. An Asian person raised in Asia is gonna be completely different. But it could have been the same person. It all just depends on where they were brought up. So a lot of it is just societal influence, but only some of it is genetic. And a lot of people don't know that. They are like, look at these statistics, and then they just link you to some random website where they found statistics for something. That's the thing. How a lot of these people say facts don't care about your feelings, and look at my statistics, and you're just totally missing the point. It's not about arguing. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's about how are we going to share space on a planet if we hate each other. Because the truth is that we're all here. We're all alive. We all exist. Nobody wants to be alone. Nobody wants to be hated. Nobody wants to be alienated. What is the best film that you have watched this year? The best film I've seen a lot of good movies this year. I don't even know. Best film this year. The worst film that I saw this year was um, on Netflix. It's called He's All That. I watched it out of morbid curiosity and was shocked that it was even made and disappointed in anyone who had anything to do with the making of it. Um, uh, really, just if you want to hate watch a movie or laugh at how bad a movie is, go ahead and watch He's All That. Although to be honest, I don't know if you could even laugh at how bad it is because it's just not funny. You know, the funniest joke in the movie, I don't even know if it was meant to be funny, But it was this serious moment where this girl is sobbing, and she says to her brother, "Why are there Skittles everywhere?" And he goes, "Because I spilled some Skittles." And then that was it. It had nothing to do with the plot. It just was a random line out of nowhere. Just I spilled some Skittles. That's it. So the whole movie just had no reason to exist. It embraced pretty much every cliche. The acting was so bad, um, and it felt like they were playing a part. It almost felt like a parody about like romantic comedies or teenage movies and stuff from the 90s. It felt like a parody that was still somehow trying to be good. So it wasn't meant to be a parody, but it got made. People approved this, people wrote it, people watched it, people got paid to be in it and took that money. Have some dignity, Jesus. You know, if I ever meet any of the actors from there and they're like, "How could you say that about my movie?" I'm gonna be like, "Hey, I was honest. You know, if you ever said something like that about my movie, I wouldn't judge you for it. If if you are giving me constructive criticism, I'm telling you what I don't like about it. It embraced every cliche. There was nothing actually helpful in it. It didn't come with any important message. The message was literally be yourself, and, like that annoying type of like white girl on Instagram who just takes a selfie after not wearing any makeup and says be yourself, and then everyone praises her and she's like, I don't care about followers, but she's still getting all the followers for it because that's become trendy to say. It's like you don't realize that you're still just embracing a trend and you're acting like you're doing your own thing. If you truly want to be yourself, start focusing on what that means. And that means so many things. Nobody else can tell you, but you're not going to be able to just decide in a second. It's not about making a decision. And of course, doesn't it go without saying? Isn't it blatantly obvious that you should be yourself? What else are you supposed to do? Be somebody else? I think that goes without saying. And I think if you're going to make a movie about being yourself, you should start at be yourself and spend the rest of the movie explaining how to do that and what that really means. This ended with be yourself, and it was unbearable to watch this character's development just to get to that point. It really says a lot about the actress, who's not even an actress. I don't know anything about her, but what I understand that she was like a TikTok influencer or something with a lot of followers, which just pisses me off that most people who are famous on TikTok or any Instagram or any social media platform, a lot of them are literally only famous for the way that they look. The boys don't even have to try. Girls will do like makeup tutorials and stuff, and some of them don't have to try. They'll just post pictures and do stuff, and people eat it up because they love seeing it. But I noticed that a lot of guys who do stuff, they're just like, they'll like stick their tongue out and try to be sexy and stuff, and people are just like, oh my god, they're so hot. And I'm like, what are they actually doing? You are supporting this person, following this person, and boosting their ego. You're probably turning them into an asshole because they think they're the shit now, and they think that they can just do whatever they want, and that everyone loves them and they're the greatest of them all. And then, what are they really? They're just someone whose only talent is looking a certain way. How shallow do you have to be to take joy from that, to feel fulfilled by that, and to think that that's actually helpful to anyone in the world? It's really sad. These people are so dead inside. They don't even know who they are. They're hard to talk to because they just embrace whatever is trendy. They're not even a person. I guarantee you could talk to 5, 10, 20 of these people, and it's gonna be like talking to the same person every time. I really hope to see your films one day. Thank you. I really appreciate that because um, I put a lot of thought into everything that I create, and I always want to make sure that it's helpful to people and that it's not like hard to watch. I just make it for me though at the end of the day because it's my first movie especially is going to be kind of a combination of everything I like about film. So my movies are going to be my favorite movies, and if anyone else likes them, it's a bonus. But I need to make them either way because when I think about them, to me it's like everything I like about film, everything that I would want to see in a film, I'm making it myself and I'm putting it out there, and you know it's just important that I do it. But I also think that it's really important that it reaches people. Like I want it to blow up and be big. I want people to see it and to see everything I make afterwards because everything I make is going to be made with intention, and it's gonna so I think it's like my language, honestly. You know, I do these videos and I talk and blah blah blah. Obviously I'm talking so people can hear me, but I don't always feel heard until I'm making a movie. That's my language. That's how I communicate. If you want to understand what I'm saying, the best way to do that is to watch a movie that I made, and I have this trilogy that I'm gonna do after my first movie. I might do two movies before that. I haven't decided, but um, definitely going to do trilogy eventually, and that I've put so much thought into. It's like a whole world, and it's filled with so many things that are really important to me, and I think important for people to understand. There's so many moments in there that you just can't really understand it in any other context, and it just sort of makes sense because sometimes the things I talk about, you need real life examples to compare it to. You need to kind of see how it would apply to your life in order to really get it. And people are moved by movies and songs, and all my movies are going to have songs in them. Um, like a lot of people will write a movie and a musical, and then they'll write songs for it. I kind of do it the opposite way. I listen to music and then I write a movie around these songs, and I write a whole really detailed storyline that could play out for almost 3 hours if you really let me go full on with this, but I probably will have to shorten some of it. Um, but they're not even musicals because there's not that many songs in them. There's like five, four or five, and there might be more than that depending on how long it is. I'll probably release like an extended version as like a DVD exclusive or a digital release exclusive instead of the theatrical version. That's what I'm currently thinking about, but I might change my mind. I don't know. It's the future. All I know is I'm gonna go to a film school next year at some point, hopefully. Anyway, I'm looking at schools right now, but yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So hopefully I can get everything done the way that I'm planning on it, and hopefully it can be executed to look how it is in my head. That's that's what matters the most to me. And I understand that I might have to make some deals in order to get the proper funding to make sure that it looks exactly how I see it. But I decided a while ago that that was more important to me. Um, that the idea of like taking a little bit of money. I write poetry. I write poetry too. Um, Not often though. Sometimes it's like if I have something to say and I don't want to bother doing a long thing about it or anything. I'll just write a little poem just to get something out of my head. And I wrote this one poem. I forgot how it goes. I think it's "Don't drown, it's just a dream. It's not as dangerous as it seems. Head above water, just barely breathing. Look around, maybe wait before leaving. It's not what it looks like, it's always something else. Try looking at something outside of yourself." Um, I don't remember the end. The ending was my favorite part. I can't remember it. Um, it ends with something like, "I wanted nothing, now everything's mine," but I don't remember the line before that. Anyway, that was one of the first times I wrote like a little poem, and it just kind of sat down and it really wrote itself and just used my hands. I wasn't even thinking about what it meant. And since then, I've gone back to it and I was like, wow, this applies. So many things that I've learned since writing it, it kind of applies to it. And there's so many things that it's like, I've learned that the shorter it is, the better it is. Because often when you make something really long, your ego kind of goes into it, and when you're just writing something shorter and simpler, your intuition kind of takes over and you don't really have to think about it. And then it just kind of exists as it's meant to. And you still wrote it, it's still yours. But it came less from a place of like fear and control, and you kind of inserting yourself into it, and more just like letting it be an objective piece of art that could be put out into the world and interpreted in a number of different ways. I love when something can be interpreted in numerous ways, because when something is so obvious, when there's a message that you're supposed to take away from it, it limits it. And I think all of my movies are going to have millions of different ways to interpret it. I think the movie that I was just shitting on, He's All That, there's really only one message to take away from it, and it's a very basic message. The movie's not bad, it's just not good. You know, I don't want to like insult it, because I understand that a lot of people put time and effort into it, and I don't want to criticize anyone who bothered making something that's meant to be art. But it's just not that good. But you know, when you create something that can be interpreted in a number of different ways, you're kind of giving it to the world instead of taking ownership of it. And I think it's really good to encourage people too to be creative and to, whether they're planning on being writers or directors, to just give them the freedom to make up storylines. To just go in your backyard and pick up a stick and, I don't know, just, make up a story that the stick is a wand, or I don't know, have the stick be a person. Just figure something out. Just be creative. But people don't do that. People just want to be on their phones, and I am going to be deleting most of my social media. I'm going to keep my Instagram and my Twitter because I can use Twitter to post like announcements in the future. If I, you know, have like a professional account at some point. And Instagram, I use that actively to post my thoughts in captions of pictures that have nothing to do with what the caption's about. I'll just post a picture of my dog or something and then write a caption about capitalism. Like, but I also post a lot of stuff in my story. So Instagram I'm keeping, but anyone who wants to talk to me can talk to me in my DMs on Instagram. But Snapchat, Discord, Facebook, all of these things that I have, there's just no reason for it. The only function is to interact with people, and we really need to be spending more time being introspective and trying to be happy and in the present moment. And people are so in a dead zone state. They're not happy, they're not sad, they're just kind of just like not really all there. And you just see this is the type of person that I'm talking about, like those TikTokers who are so famous, just so empty inside. And that's why I said you could talk to like 20 or 30 of them. You could talk to all of them. They're probably all exactly the same. You're not going to notice any differences. But they are so different. They just haven't put that on the surface. They've chosen to conform, basically. And what really pisses me off is the ones who act like they're against conformity, the ones who act like they're rebels. Come on. If you're going to conform, at least acknowledge it. Don't try, because it's become trendy to do that. It's become trendy to be yourself and to, you know, like, what's your Instagram, if you don't mind me asking? All my social media is linked on my channel. If you go to the About column, you'll see all my social media. I have playlists, channels, community, and about. And I'm going to try and be more active on my community posts too, because that's a good way to announce stuff. You can only see that if you're on a mobile device. But yeah, if you're on like an iPad or computer, you're not going to be able to see the community posts. I'm not sure why, but my about column has my Instagram. My username is Tristan Marion 4 because 4 is my favorite number on everything, and I liked to make myself easy to find, so it's my username on everything. And I'm definitely going to be deleting my Snapchat and everything soon because there's so many people that I have on there that I barely talk to. And the people that I do talk to that I would want to keep talking to, I can literally just say, hey, go message me on Instagram, we'll talk there instead. And that's that. And then screw everybody else. They're dead weight. I don't need people who will just talk to me about stuff I don't care about. People are so boring. I just I don't want to hear about what you ate for dinner, or like, it just shows that you have no interest in actually going somewhere with me. You just want to stay surface level, and that's not a friendship I care to engage in. I don't want to talk to someone who doesn't have something to talk about, because it shows me that you are not comfortable going deep. You want to stay in the shallow where it's safe. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe you don't even have the capacity to go deep. I don't know. I like to believe that everyone does. But some people, it's just like, oh my God, it's like, where are they? Um, and deepness, depth, it doesn't mean being really smart or complex. It doesn't mean having a lot of information. I think animals are deep. A dog can just look you in the eyes. I haven't made myself easy to find on other platforms. It's okay. It's your decision. I wanted to be easy to find because I want people to not have trouble finding me. It's kind of a really stupid thing to say. I just realized that as I was saying, I'm like, I want to be easy to find because I want to be easy to find. Um, but really, I don't know how else to say it. I don't have any other reason. That I just want to be easy to find. Because I have a platform, and I don't want people being like, wait, what's his Instagram, or how do I find him here, or like, my goal is to put myself out there, and that's really the only way I could say it. But people just don't know what to say. A dog can look at you in the eyes and say so much. So depth has nothing to do with how much you know or how much you can talk about. But it has to do with if you're. A lot of people are afraid of um, nature photos. I've taken some nature photos, usually in my yard, because I get a lot of like rainbows after storms, and they look really pretty sometimes, and just my yard in general looks really pretty, and the clouds and the sunset. If you go through my Instagram, you'll notice some pictures like that I'm really proud of because they're really pretty. Um, I think I'm a good photographer. If I want to be a director, I think I would have to be good at photography as well. Just kind of comes with it. Um, yeah, maybe I just get lucky with good scenery. But still, even with good scenery, you have to be good at taking a picture of it. Some people have a really pretty image and they take a picture of it. It does not do it justice at all. Um, I am gonna be getting an iPhone 13 Pro Max when it comes out next week, um, and that has like a really good camera, so that's good. Probably not gonna use it that much, but I might. Right now, I'm filming this on a standard iPhone 12, so it'll be nice to upgrade from a regular 12 to a 13 Pro Max, which is bigger. I'll actually notice a difference. Um, if it wasn't a bigger size, I barely would notice a difference because I don't notice all the little things that they improve about it. But I'm gonna have to do something because my pockets are not big enough to carry a phone. This phone already sticks out of the top of my pocket. This one is gonna be huge, but I'll figure something out. It'll have to work. It'll have to fit in my pocket because I like my pants. I like my jeans. Okay. I haven't thought too much about that, but I've just decided that it'll have to work. Something will have to do. It'll probably be ugly sticking out of the top, but hey, maybe that's more incentive to not always have my phone with me. I used to not even have a phone. When did I get my phone? 2018. I didn't even have a phone until 2018. I used my iPad for everything until then, and since I got my phone, I've been on it a lot more, and I got to experience what it's like to be so invested in things that don't matter at all, that just take up your time. And I used to be really passionate too about so many things. I was active, I was excited, I was confident. And I've kind of lost some of that confidence and passion because I don't know, I started comparing myself to people. And I started comparing myself to people who are really a lot further along than I am, which is okay. They're older than me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter if they were my age and they're further along than me. I should be proud of them, not feeling like I'm inferior, like that makes me less than. We're all on a different path. We're all learning at our own rate. It doesn't make us better or worse. Like you wouldn't judge someone for being a kindergartner. Like you wouldn't be a fifth grader and look at a kindergartner and say you're so stupid. Well, of course they're in kindergarten. What do you expect? Like you can't judge people for where they are. And I need to stop judging myself. I need to stop looking at fifth graders and saying, "Damn it, I'm supposed to be at that level by now." Like I'm wherever I am. I need to respect that and work with that and focus on the things that I like about myself instead of comparing myself to people who have learned so much more than me. But I've been learning a lot from them. And then also sometimes on the flip side of that, I compare myself to people who only pretend to know more than me, and like peers who are caught up in all of this brainwashing and stuff that it's just a weird toxic mix of the two, where on one hand I have really good advice and I say really smart things because I'm learning from really smart people, but on the other hand, I'm also kind of operating on a lower vibration because I'm hanging around a lot of people who are also doing that and who act like they they know everything and they really don't. So I need to kind of just focus on detaching from all of that. Um, I compare myself to younger people. It's a human fault. Yeah, it really is. It's just something everybody does, but you know, you can't really like be hard on yourself. I've been going for um an hour and 40 minutes, which is gonna be almost my longest live stream, if not my longest live stream. Um, but at least the title is accurate. Verbal diarrhea. I'm just rambling. This video has no topic. I needed to talk. I swear to God, if I didn't have my camera on, I would still be talking, and I probably wouldn't be saying anything different, because I talk to myself like this all the time. At least this way, people who are interested can hear me. I appreciate that I have someone who's listening and who's genuinely interested in what I'm saying. Sometimes the number says 2, sometimes it says 1, so I've got 2 people listening, but it's stayed consistent at 1. It hasn't gone back down to 0, so that's nice to know that someone's listening to me. But I'm probably going to sign off soon because I don't want to have a super long video and it'll take forever to process. And but it will be up on my channel tomorrow if you want to rewatch it. I don't know why anyone would want to watch this. I am gonna, all the stuff that I'm talking about, I've probably covered like 10 separate topics that could all be their own video. And all those videos could be like 10 minutes or less. There's no need to talk about all of it at the same time in this messy way for this long. But it does still feel good to get it all off my chest. I don't think I ever finished my point when I was talking about, like, I just heard somebody go to the bathroom again. I've just been standing here the whole time. I'm gonna get a drink. Okay. The main person that I had watching just said they need to go. That's okay. The air just came on, and it's gonna start roaring. My air conditioning is really loud. I turned it off before I started filming. Somebody must have gotten hot and turned it back on. That's okay. A little incentive to end and wrap up. I just wanted to finish what I was saying about politics, because I think that, you know, all the other stuff, it's okay to just leave it unfinished, but I understand that. When will you come live again? I'll probably do something tomorrow night. Yeah, I'll do something tomorrow. Why not? I should do this more often. It's fun. Just to not really have to try too hard, but to just talk. So yeah, tune in tomorrow night, same time, around like midnight. My MS gives me insomnia. Okay, so I just wanted to finish the political point because I think that that's the one thing that is really hard to talk about. You know, also religion, but I think people are a little bit more forgiving when it comes to religion. People are like, okay, whatever religion you want to believe in, it is what it is. But when it comes to politics, people are very firm and very passionate. So I already admitted being, like, against the whole, like, Blue Lives Matter stuff, so I just want to finish and explain that. I started by talking about people who have Blue Lives Matter flags, and I think it's really inconsistent because a lot of conservatives are always saying that they're afraid of authority. They don't want to get the vaccine, they don't want to wear a mask, the government is lying to them, they don't trust government or authority at all. But at the same time, they kiss ass for police, and they think that politicians are bad, but only leftist politicians. Everyone else is definitely not corrupt at all, on any level. The right is filled with honest, good people who you can trust, especially Donald Trump. He's the most honest of them all. He rejects all the stuff that you're supposed to do and does his own thing, and I love him for that. You know, like, that's what you hear a lot. And it doesn't make sense to believe that, because if you actually pay close attention, you will realize that pretty much anyone who gets into this position, first of all, Donald Trump specifically, I admit, he is very different from other politicians, but he's still a little asshole. And he only ran as Republican because he knew Republicans are more gullible. He knew it'd be an easy win, it'd be a steal. And if he ran for Democrats, they would see right through his crap. And he knew that. I don't think that the man really has a political stance. I think that he only cares about himself. And this is based on observing his behavior. He has shown many signs of a narcissist. Excuse me. The type of person to be around. I think he needs professional help. And I think politically, anything good that he's done for the country was not for the right reasons. I don't think he knows what it means to do something for the right reason. I think he is spoiled while also being abused, because it is abuse to spoil a child. Um, I think that he just is very disproportionate, not really fully in touch with reality. He, just the idea that I remember a long time ago this video of him saying, my father gave me a small loan of $1 million. That says so much about him alone. And him saying something like, you can, when you're a star, you can do anything, grab him by the pussy. Like, him thinking that it's okay to talk like that just says so much about him as a person that it doesn't matter what he does as a politician, you cannot trust his motives. And a lot of people say, well, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Or that was in the past, he's changed since then. First of all, have you really ever seen any sign of him changing? Has he ever actually shown remorse for that? He laughs at it. He doesn't take it seriously. He doesn't take any of the criticism that he receives seriously because everything is a joke to him. And he just thinks that he's the shit. He's the best person there is out there. I don't think he even thinks of himself as dishonest or corrupt. I think he finds ways to justify everything he does because he can't think of himself as anything other than the best. He's a narcissist. And that is a very real issue because that type of mentality applies to so many people who get into politics because they're so obsessed with being right. And just, you gotta know that the only time you can really trust someone in a position of authority is when they're trying to bring things down and change the way things are, when their intention is to completely change the way things work. But if they're trying to keep it the same and just make little improvements, goodbye. I don't care if you're the best person in the world, I don't care if you're the worst. You're not going to do what needs to be done, and it doesn't make a difference to me if you're the devil or God. If you're not going to do what needs to be done, I don't want to hear from you, period. That's why it doesn't matter if Joe Biden is a good person. He's not making the changes that need to be made. So it makes no difference to me if he's Donald Trump or Joe Biden. The only reason I didn't want him to be Donald Trump is because I'm so tired of hearing about him. Joe Biden, there's a lot of things I don't like about what he's doing and about, I don't know too much about him as a person. I can't criticize him as a person. I haven't had the incentive to study him as a person as much as Donald Trump because I hardly ever hear about him. Donald Trump, it was unavoidable. Anywhere you go, anything you listen to, whether it's the news or just a random video that pops up on the internet or your favorite TV show, you cannot escape Donald Trump, and I was sick of it. I didn't want another 4 years of that. And I am terrified of him winning again in 2024. But Joe Biden is quiet. I don't hear anything about it. He's not mentioned. It's as if everything is back to normal, and I just needed to breathe for a minute. But things are no different than they were before. Nothing's changing. I don't believe anything's going to collapse. I don't think he's going to kill the country or get us killed or anything. I think that he's just, vibing with the system, and things are going the way that they were before Donald Trump came in. That's at least my understanding of it. But either way, if I really want to make a change, I want to completely make a change. And I don't believe voting actually does anything. And I explained that in my previous video, if you watch it, called My Problem with Capitalism. It's basically my long-winded way of explaining why voting doesn't really do anything. It's sort of like veganism. It's a lazy way to pretend to care about a cause. And people can... I hate it when vegans act like they're better people than you. If you are vegan, that's totally fine. It's probably healthier. It shows that you have discipline to control yourself and say, no, I'm going to eat this, I'm not going to buy this furniture, I'm not going to do this, whatever it is. Veganism is a lifestyle. For those of you who don't know the difference between being a vegan and being a vegetarian, vegetarian is a diet, and it can be for health reasons, it can be for any reason. But veganism is a lifestyle that believes in not buying or being involved in anything that involves mistreatment of animals, which is why they don't drink like dairy products or buy leather furniture or anything like that. And I support that because animals are mistreated, and if you actually look at what goes on, of how animals are bred to be killed and the way chickens are treated, just stuff like that, it's absolutely horrible and disgusting. And if you look at it, it's like, Jesus Christ, what is going on here? But being a vegan does not fix that problem. wake up, man. You're not saving any of these animals by not eating it, because you know what happens when it doesn't get sold, it gets thrown out. That's how it works. And you can thank capitalism for that, by the way. If they don't sell it, it's going to end up in the trash. Maybe a homeless person will dig it out of there and eat it, but it doesn't fix the problem. So if you want to fix the problem, you're going to have to focus on the root, which is a systematic issue of the way that this country, America, is set up. And if you think about that, apply it to your own country. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. I'm sure that it's similar because every country has a system. And it wouldn't be a country otherwise. It would just be a village. It would just be, a private civilization. And every country has a system, and you have to really think about if the system is based on truth, based on things that are, definitely true. And I was going to do a video talking about the idea of starting over, imagining that we all just got here to this planet. Planet's empty, it's just a bunch of land, and there's like maybe 100 different people of every different type of person, every race, every gender, every type of person that there is, every talent that there can be, all the artists, the writers, the mechanics, the hairdresser, whatever it is, whatever you do, whatever your talent is, just every different type of person. And we all exist and we're all standing around and we don't know anything. All we know is how to communicate with each other with English, but we don't know anything else. So imagine that scenario and imagine trying to work together to figure out how we can live together. Obviously, the first, most obvious rule is let's not kill each other because otherwise we won't be living together. We won't be alive. Just a bunch of dead bodies. And I think this is another really important thing to remember. We're all the same when we're dead. For those of you who believe in superiority or believe that some races are better than other races or that some people are better than other people, whether regardless of race, or just I'm better than you because I know more than you, whatever it is, when you're both dead, you're both the same. So you gotta stop fighting each other to the death, because if you both die, it's just gonna be two lifeless bodies. No one's better than another, and that's just a tragedy. And that's what's going to happen. We're all so obsessed with our egos and fighting with each other that eventually it's just going to be a planet filled with lifeless bodies. And where does that get you? So, first basic rule, let's not kill each other. Second basic rule, mind your own business. Period. Mind your business. So, we all just get here, we're forming a society. Those are the first two rules. Don't kill each other, mind your own business. And go from there. The problem is that if you actually look at how our systems work in most countries, it disregards those two rules. They do not mind their own business by any means. In America, the police literally work to get involved in your business and judge you. They do not live to protect you. Think, if you live in America, I have to ask you, can you ever remember a time when you had an interaction with police that made your day better? I imagine most people cannot say yes to that, and even the ones that can, their number is pretty low, maybe one or two times, where an interaction with the police actually improved your day. That's because they don't actually live to serve, they don't live to protect you. Some of them are delusional enough to think that being a cop is a noble thing, and they do actually have good intentions. But I'm sorry to tell you, if you think that, wake up. You are supporting a system. You have become a gear in a machine that is working to dehumanize people and take away everything that makes life worth living. And it's going to kill us all. You have to be dismantling this thing from the inside if you want to get on the inside. But don't be tricked into thinking that you're actually supporting anything. I've only had one interaction with a police officer in my lifetime, and it wasn't even a personal interaction. It was actually quite recent, um, just earlier this year, and I just was around to see it. I wasn't even involved. I was kind of involved in it, but I don't want to get into it. But it was completely ridiculous. It was not justified at all. I don't want to give you the details, but it was a complete nonsense situation, and the smugness that this police officer came with, I cannot even explain how much I wanted to tear him apart. I couldn't stand the way he spoke and what he did. He did not have to do. He wasted time and money for his own purpose because he gains something from it. And this is what we have to remember. This is a for-profit system. The medical system, the police, they literally gain something from crime existing, from people being unhealthy. They have something to gain by keeping you sick. They have something to gain by criminals existing. Have you never considered this? These people are not good natured, kind hearted people for the most part. They're arrogant, corrupt assholes who think that they're so much better than you. And it's all compensation. Most of these guys have tiny dicks, I guarantee it. Because these people do not feel confident and secure enough on their own. They need a position of authority to make themselves feel powerful. And they will use that power and find any way to use it. And the system lets them. It's like a dictatorship, and these it's like a castle where there's an evil queen who's making all sorts of horrible rules and has these little worker knights to inflict the rules. Just think of it like that. That's basically what it is. That's all that police are. They're just inflicting the law. They don't have minds of their own, although oftentimes they do, but not in a good way. Very rarely you see a police disobey the law in a way that actually helps you. Oftentimes, and a lot of people don't know this, if you don't know your rights, um, and you know, the police won't always tell you the truth. You have to know what your rights are, because you can't trust the police to always do what is right. They won't always tell you what you have the right to do. They they don't always, they get like a 6 month training or something like that. I don't remember the exact number, but something like that ensure to enforce laws that people take like 4, 5, 12 years studying. People spend such a long time being lawyers studying the law. You never see a young judge because it takes forever to become a judge. And yet, people who enforce these laws that take that long to study have spent barely a year doing it. And that just shows that they don't really care about it. They're just there to enforce it. And they don't always have to be honest and genuine. They don't go through training to see how good of a person they are. They just go through training to make sure they can do their job. So stop saying blue lives matter. They don't matter. It's a job, and it's a bullshit job. I hate the police. I hate it as a job. If you are a cop, I don't hate you, but I hate what you do. So just know that. It's not personal. Um, and I don't hate anybody. I don't believe in hating people, but I do believe in fighting things that are wrong, things that hurt people. And if something in your gut just says this is not justice, this is not right, you should fight against it passionately. But not if you're pro life. But that's another video. I did already make a video talking about abortion, but I'm going to do another one because it's become relevant again and I have a lot more to say on it. So I want to explain it. I definitely don't have my opinions from like a uneducated perspective. It's not like, oh, I just decided that I want to believe this. Because this is the thing that pisses me off. A lot of people think that, like, if you're leftist or if you're, I don't know, socialist or whatever it is, that you're stupid, that you are buying into a bunch of bullshit, and that you're, like people say libtards and stuff, and just, it really doesn't help. And I was talking about this earlier when people distract from where the issue is by changing the language. You're not really changing the problem, you're just changing the language. If you don't use words that are deemed offensive, it doesn't mean that you've solved racism. There are so many areas where this comes up. Veganism, not using racial slurs, trying to be politically correct and woke. All of this stuff is just pretentious bullshit that distracts from the real root of the problem and acts as if a problem is being fixed. It's you complaining to an abusive leader that their system is hurting you, and them tossing you candy to keep your mouth shut. So you're busy chewing candy. Americans have been bought off by all sorts of distracting, shiny things. Their phones, the idea of being woke. There's always a political cause to fight for. There's always something to keep you busy. So you're not actually actively focusing on what needs to be done. And the reason for this is that they know that if every American suddenly woke up and tried to fight for what they know is right, they would win, because there is no real power in this country. There's no power anywhere. The only power that you ever have True power comes from within, and it can't be taken away from you. That is your only right, actually. A lot of people think they have rights. You don't have rights. Most of the things you consider rights are technically just privileges, and the reason for that is that they can be taken away. And a right is only a right if it is always yours, no matter what. And the only thing that is always yours is your free will. Your ability to say yes or no, your ability to choose how you react to things that are out of your control. That is the only right that you have. And that is your power. No one can take that from you. But the illusion of power comes from when you think you have other things out in your control, when you have people under control. You can brainwash people, you can manipulate people, but your power still depends on them. It's their power. You've just convinced yourself it's yours. But as soon as they wake up, suddenly you don't have any power. Your only power came from their trust of you. So, yeah. I mean, even if you use weapons, even if you have like magic or, just hypothetically, you have like telekinesis and you can blast people away from you, that's still not even power because they still won't love you. You'll still be alone. Doesn't matter what you do to enforce your power, to scare people into liking you or obeying you or whatever you want, you're still going to be alone and you're not actually addressing your issues at the root, your wants. Because nobody wants to be alone. Nobody wants to be miserable. People want to enjoy life and do what they feel they're supposed to be doing, go where they think they need to be, and listen to their gut. But people have all these other ideas in their head that they're supposed to, they need a job and they need all this. And sometimes they really do. Sometimes if you actually follow your dreams, you're going to end up getting your dreams crushed and you're going to be broke. And you have to find a balance. But you have to trust that your intuition will guide you to where you need to be. And that's, you know, again, these are all other topics I keep bringing up that require so much more elaboration. I don't have time to get into it. I have to go. But I see that I have one person watching. Thank you so much for the people who tuned in. I see this video has 7 likes. I really appreciate it. I apologize for rambling for so long, but I'm pretty happy with everything I've said. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you watched all the way to the end, I thank you so much for taking that much time out of your day to watch this random verbal diarrhea. Me just vomiting words randomly with no specific topic or intention. But I promise you, I will be more active. I will be doing videos on a lot of the topics I brought up today that will be a lot more focused and edited and better. So tomorrow night I'm going to go live too, I decided. So I'll see you then. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, as usual, go ahead and leave it in the comments. I always reply to comments and questions, but I usually don't get any. So I end up replying to like troll comments and stuff that really don't need to reply to, but it's like, well, what else is there to reply to? Nobody else said anything. So please leave a comment.